Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. I'm sure you're all itching to know what Hannah and I got up to at the weekend out in the garden. But before I do that, I did a before look of the garden at the end of last week. The reason being that sort of new people wouldn't necessarily know what the garden looks like. So if you want to see what the garden was like before the work we did this weekend, there's an info card coming up now, and also I'll put the link in the description if you want to drop down to there if you can't use info cards. And that'll give you a chance to see what it was like a few days ago. Right, if you've been away, welcome back. If you haven't, I assume you watched it when it was posted. Anyway, let's go out and have a walk round. It's early in the day, so I shall speak quietly. The wistaria's coming out now, so we've got a few flowers. There's lots more to come. There are a few actually out now, so we've got the wisteria coming into bloom. You can see all the other buds all along the hedge there. Don't think it's going to have as many blooms on this year, but that's probably the way it was hacked last year. That was hacked back when we did the bamboo. So that was that, and then we'll just walk round basically. That's the easiest way. That edging has been cleared back a bit and the ivy taken back, so that these plants have got quite a clear run. At some point I'm going to possibly have to pick up the dead blooms off of the camellia, because they're starting to form a bit of a pile and swamping some of the plants in there. So that was that. We had a bit of a weed around the gravel beds, but not too much. And then over here, at great expense to me, because the thorns on this palm are absolutely vicious, but I needed to trim that bit down to allow the maple to have its head basically, so that it can grow in the clear and we get a good view of it then, not interrupted by greenery behind it. So, and to do that I leant the steps in the palm because I couldn't reach and I got spiked basically a couple of times. So that's all we did round here really. Again, there was weeding done on the gravel beds and elsewhere. Hannah cut the ivy back a bit here because it was coming out over the path. She also did a bit of pruning on some of the things that were hanging out of this corner. Coming round here, we discovered a problem, or Hannah discovered it inadvertently. If you look over by that table leg, the decking's going, and if you watch it now while I walk on it, it moves. So the underpinning is breaking down. If you look in the corner, it's rotting. So I'm losing the decking. So to avoid any accidents, what we did was the easy way to stop anybody walking on the weak part. This side's fine, it's this side that the problem is. So we actually moved the table across there, so in case I forget and walk along that edge and actually go through. So we put the table in the way. Unfortunately that means, obviously, if I'm sat on my bench I can't reach the table now. Duh. And then what we've got is quite a big change. We've still got some weeding to do. Hannah took quite a bit out, but there's more to do basically. I'll come round here. All the ivy's been taken back, so these plants have got a clear run now. Hannah is very uncertain about what is proper plants and what are weeds, so there's some weeds have been left inadvertently, which I'll have to do, like these. These are weeds. And if you look down through here, there's still quite a lot of weeds here. But she cleared this bit out. So all the encroaching ivy and everything that was coming out here has been dug up and cut back, and the bamboo cut back a bit. there's bulbs and things that I planted in there. There was snowdrops, bluebells, fritillaries, the primroses you can see, and then this was just a mess. So she cleared all this out, and these are the plants from Helen that were left over that didn't get planted. In addition to those, you might just be able to see them, there are some ferns. Those were the ferns from Burnham's that were, I think what's happened is the blackbirds have thrown the leaves over the top of them. They were quite visible, but there's 3 or 4 of those that were in the moss trays in the grow room. They got thrown outside last year, spent the winter outside and survived quite happily, therefore they must be hardy. So those are Burnham ferns, and they're quite low growing, they're not massive. And then in here we've got some of the London Pride, the Bugle, or the Juga I think it's called by other people, and some of the Rose Campion. So hopefully this corner here, because unfortunately, although it's not obvious, there's 2 paving slabs there, so this is only a very shallow amount of soil, but it's ideal for these type of plants. So, and the Himalayan honeysuckle, the pot broke, fell apart. So we got another pot from, a spare one, and Hannah unpotted it and potted it up in a bigger pot. So this should grow better now. So that was that bit. Oof. So trying to walk without treading on plants. Yeah. So that corner's now got plants in rather than just weeds, but there are still some more weeds to get out. And again, all the ivy was cut back. I got the strimmer out for this bit, so we cleared the path back. It's amazing how much wider this path is, because the ivy was on the edge of the pavers both sides, which left just enough room to walk. Well, putting a strimmer along there, I've now got a nice wide path again. And then again over here I put the strimmer along this edge and along this edge, which is falling apart, this edge. The timber that was used is just rotten. I'm not replacing it, blow that. We noticed that the rose here has got buds on, many, so that'll be in flower soon. That'll be nice. So, and obviously we tidied up the patio a bit. There's a few little bits of grass that were left because Mojo chews on grass, cats do that sort of thing, so those were left. They will get removed eventually. Now, who's going shock horror? What's missing? The big change. What's missing? What's gone from the planted border? What's gone are those 2 stupid pom-pom variegated bushes. They died in the winter, in quotes, if ever I get asked. Hannah just said, why do you keep these stupid bushes? And I stood back and thought, actually they do look stupid and they're totally out of keeping. So they got cut off down near the ground. So they're gone, basically. And we'll forget they were ever there. And if I ever get asked, they died in the winter. Right, so that was that. Nothing else really got done here, apart from Hannah questioning what everything was and, looking forward to seeing some stuff coming out in bloom soon. So we didn't really do much here, apart from cut those 2 bushes down. There's more ferns coming up in places. I planted the Vinca minor, the little creeper, there. And it can fill that little gap there that was being left because it was under the pom-pom bush, which the stump is there. So that can sort of fill in that space and sort of creep about in there. But there's another fern coming up there, and that one looks like one of these. So we've still got ferns coming up in places, surprisingly. It's nice to know that the big ferns from Helen have taken, because the fronds have opened quite a lot since they were planted, and if they weren't happy they'd have wilted, and they haven't. They're growing on strong, so next year those will be huge. And yeah, a few more ferns here. So nothing much was planted here, it was more tidying up. And then Hannah idea again, well, combination of ideas, because I was explaining to her about these posts and what I was going to do, and the fact that there was some plywood sheets out in the carport that belonged to next door, and he said I can have them, and I was going to try and make some bonsai stands. If you can picture like a sort of 2-foot square of plywood on the ground with a post in the middle of it, and then a sort of oblong platform on the top of it, stained black like the rest of the staging, and then a particular bonsai tree set aside on its own stand to make a feature of it. Because these sort of stagings are all very well, but they end up being a cluster of trees, almost looks like a hedge. Whereas if you could imagine this tree here perhaps on its own individual stand with its own space around it. So that's my plan, that's what I want. And then we got thinking, and if I got 4 or 5 individual stands, how many bonsai are on top of that staging? How much tabletop space is there? How much space on the edge of the decking is there? We suddenly got thinking, once I've done the individual bonsai stands, oh, this was something else I meant to say as well. In under here are 4, what's left of 6, blackthorn, or quickthorn some people call it. Those are going to go at the back of the planted border and be trained as a hedge along the fence. So instead of looking at that fence behind all those plants, we'll have some green, and that has white blossom on the bare branches in the spring, so early spring as well, February. So that's the plan for those pots. So if some of the bonsai are going on their individual plant stands, what on earth are we going to do with this staging? We're going to put wheels on it, and it will become the cymbidium staging for my cymbidium orchids, without having to build a whole new set of staging. And 2 lots of this staging in the garden might be a bit cluttered. So this staging will disappear from this part of the garden, yeah? And this part of the garden will have some individual bonsai on their own stands, which I think will look a lot more decorative. And what I might do is move that staging over there so that the individual bonsai stands can come closer to the house. Yet to be decided. But the only hassle with using that staging, because I need to put casters on it, because the cymbidium orchids will need moving for different times of day, because they need early morning sun basically, but not midday sun, so I have to move the staging. To put casters on there, I need a square base to the legs, so I will have to get some square, just sort of 3-inch square pieces of plywood that can be screwed to the bottom of there, and then the casters can be screwed into the plywood. That's going to get organised. Now we get on to the plywood itself. And again, Hannah said, have you, because I said I'm going to have real trouble with the plywood, I've only got a handsaw, and I'm also going to have trouble with these posts, because these posts need absolutely square ends to them to stand upright, yeah? Otherwise they'll either be on a slope, or the platform on the top will be on a slope. They need square ends. To try and square off a 4x4 post with a handsaw is almost impossible. So Hannah said, why don't you contact Tony? I'm sure he's got all his own tools, because Tony converted a horse van, the sort of van you use to transport horses. Oh, chaffinch. They are so pretty. And she said, why don't you contact him and, see if you can borrow his tools or something. And I thought, hang on, we got a better idea. So I contacted my son, He doesn't live too far away, it's less than 30 miles. And had a chat about it. Not only has he got his own tools, including circular saws and all that sort of stuff, but where he parks his van, because they live in it some of the time, where he parks his van is on a farm, and the guy on the farm runs a little woodworking shop, making furniture and things like that. And Tony said, I can book a slot in there and we can use the bench saw and everything like that. And he's got a router to round edges off and things. So I phoned up Tony, and basically I'm going to mark where I want everything cut, load it all up in the car and take it there, and then bring it back. All I've then got to do is put the thing, stain it and put the stuff together. And hopefully that will be done quite quickly. And then we can get these individual stands set up. I'm hoping to get 5, because I want a couple of tall ones, or at least one tall one. I don't want them all like 2 foot tall, and also I don't want any the same height. I don't want any 2 the same. I want them all different heights, from relatively low down for perhaps a smaller tree to quite tall for one of the larger sort of more specimen type trees. So that's all in hand now. Even if he can't book a slot in the workshop, I can still take the stuff round and make sure it's a nice day so that we can work outside, and we'll use his tools, where he parks his van. So the bonsai individual stands will be coming soon. And I don't now have to make another lot of staging, and we don't get 2 lots of that staging in the garden, which might feel a bit cluttered. This is not a big space here. You put too much in it and it's going to start to feel claustrophobic, and it will lose its sort of open feel. That is the last lot of bird feed in the one feeder, and when that's gone, the bird feeder stops being used basically for the summer months. All the trees are out in leaf now. There's plenty of insects and food around for the birds. They don't need help this time of year. In fact, it can be a hindrance, because when the young birds are around, if the parents teach them that food comes from little green containers hanging off a piece of wood, they won't learn to feed themselves properly, so it can be detrimental. So there we go. That's what we got up to. 2 bushes. Oh, and also all the bagged up trimmings and everything like that. The old bits of carpet, and you'll notice those racks are gone as well. Those were used to hang my mounts on in orchid mounts when I first moved round here. They were just hanging racks. They were in the way, not wanted. Those have gone to the recycling centre as well. There's still a few more bits to sort out, but basically, more rubbish removed. And so all of that stuff went to the recycling centre. So the carport has now got nothing in it that shouldn't be there, which means I can move my car in a bit further, so it doesn't get so much weather on it. So that's what we got up to. So the main visible change is those 2 bushes are gone. I mean, that's going to allow the rose to grow nicely, because that used to grow alongside that bush and hang out sideways. Well, now it can grow upright. And those quickthorn, blackthorn, are going to go sort of right up against the fence at the very back there, and they can be allowed to grow up the fence and be trained flat against the fence, so literally only sort of 6-8 inches wide and as tall as the fence, hopefully eventually. They are quite quick growing once they get rooted. So that's what we got up to, and quite honestly I am well pleased that there's another area of the garden now that's been done. So that wasn't there. And we've recovered a bush from a broken pot and planted it up properly. We made decisions about how the bonsai are going to get sorted. And next time my house inspection comes round, she is now 8 weeks late. My last rent was the end of February. My inspection is supposed to be within the first few weeks following my rent. So she should have been here the first couple of weeks of March. It's now the first couple of weeks of May. She still hasn't even made the appointment. I think this is good because I think it basically means I'm the bottom of the list. In other words, I don't know why we bother going round there because everything's fine. I'm hoping that's why it is anyway, and she's not ill or anything. But yeah, so a couple of blackthorn to go in with that wisteria, which is going to be trained as a bush. I'm not worried whether it blooms or not. That's not what it's there for. It's there to cover up the fence, and it has lovely foliage. So, you know, it's going to do a job whether it blooms or not. And the last big job to do is this hedge. And I said to Hannah about not doing it because if we do it now, there'll be lots of tiny little bits of soft green stuff all down in here and all over the place. I said if we wait till it grows and then cut it off, we'll be picking up larger pieces, which will be much easier to see and get hold of and tidy up afterwards. So we agreed that that should be done later in the year. So, I mean, there's a huge amount more light in the garden since that tree was cut down. So, anyway, that's what we got up to. That's what we did, and it was nice working together. You know, two people get twice as much done, and it makes it nicer for me to have some company while things are getting done and spark ideas off each other as well. So we look forward to this will go missing, the bird bath will get moved, the bonsai staging here will swing round so that this becomes a more open space, and then we will get our individual bonsai staging for some of the larger, more specimen type trees. See, this is earmarked for one of the stands, this tree here, because this is a nice tree. But this can't go in full sun. So the stand for that tree will have to be here somewhere, yeah, where it doesn't get the full sun. So they won't all be out in the garden. They'll be dotted around. So, and we both agreed that my Acer in this tatty corner is looking good. We didn't get the box done because it's in a corner that doesn't really matter. Also, Hannah tried to cut some bits with the secateurs, and it's hardwood, so it wouldn't cut. It needs cutting off with a saw down, low down, and we didn't get round to that, so that didn't get done. So there we go. Plans for, you know, for future, and what we actually got done. And you can see basically the maple looks so much nicer with the greenery removed from behind it. Oh, and these bits got trimmed as well. This is an alder and an oak, and they're allowed to be bushes on the edge of the path. That's all they're allowed to be. So those have got trimmed as well, so that they don't get too tall. It's just a different type of leaf, different bit of colour. That's all they're there for. So there we go. And yeah, pleased. Very pleased. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by. The next thing really will be the bonsai stands arriving and getting put together and stained, and then rearranging all the bonsai in the garden again. That'll be the next big difference, is what that looks like. As they are, I mean, that was the reason for combining the channel really, is that the bonsai trees are part of the garden. They're not like a dedicated display, a separate area like a lot of people do. A lot of people set their bonsai up in a part of the garden, and it's just for the bonsai. I want mine to be part of the garden. That's why I don't really want any more. I mean, by the time I've sorted out that trident maple there in the funny little terracotta coloured pot, I mean, that's actually 4 separate trees there, 3 in the pot and an air layer on the top. Well, I don't want 4 trident maples, so those will probably go to somebody else, and I may keep 2 because they are nice trees. And we've got rid of some already, so we get down to trees that I like and I want to keep long term. So the Shoujo maple there on the table, that I'm hoping to be able to put that on a stand of its own, but that would have to be a pretty sizable, substantial stand, because that is heavy and large, and also it shouldn't really be in full sun all day, but it seems to do incredibly well sat there on the table, which is in full sun all day. Well, when the sun's out, obviously. I'm dodging showers here this morning, it has been raining. Anyway, coffee is due, and I'll see. Oh, I just show you a close-up of these Aquilegias. Now, when they open down, yeah? So they open like this, and you can't see them. But then, as they age, they start to point upwards, and you get to see the blooms close up. They are really nice, and I'm hoping that this is going to be the pale one. Certainly different to the one we've just looked at, but it also still looks like a dark colour. That's definitely a dark purple one. You can see the deep colour. But somewhere in amongst these, in amongst the Aquilegias from Carol, was a very pale coloured one, very delicate, sort of lilac, almost creamy white in places, and I hope that one survived somewhere. Right, there we go. Time for coffee.